Hey everyone, it's Joe from greenlightsound.com, and today we've got a look at a new plugin from Waves based upon a classic compressor from Abbey Road Studios, the RS124 compressor. And this emulates Abbey Road's classic RS124 tube compressor, which itself is a modified American Alltech 436B Very tube compressor. So the engineers at EMI, Abbey Road, got some of these in the late 50s, early 60s. Didn't quite like what they did. The original Alltech was kind of basic and basically redid nearly the whole thing, keeping only the gain reduction meter or input or output meter right in the middle here, that Alltech symbol. Pretty much everything else was added by the Abbey Road engineers, so heavily modified. So the original Alltech was made for broadcast applications, think radio, PA systems. They were just simply called the Alltechs by the Abbey Road engineers, even though they were heavily modified. And they were used on nearly every pop recording at Abbey Road in the 1960s. Only a handful were made, and each kind of slightly varied in characteristics, attack, and release times. Waves modeled a specific one, the serial number 60070B. So to get right to the controls, there's a few unusual elements about this compressor, so I want to go to those controls first. The collapse and expand view down here, I can either click on this button or the actual words here, expands the bottom panel here. This is a stereo instantiation of the plugin. If it's mono, you'll see just one panel here, and you won't see some of the stereo controls on the right here. But that expands the bottom panel where you have a sidechain high-pass filter, so the low-end, high-energy information isn't triggering the compressor too much. We've got a mix knob for parallel compression, linked or unlinked, so we have the stereo sides linked together or unlinked, and the monitor section and compression type. The monitor section is what we're listening to, stereo, left, right, mono, or mid and side, and we can compress in stereo, dual mono, or mid-side mode. So nice sort of software-only features down here. The original hardware just had this front panel right here. The first control here, auto hold. You can turn it on like that. The auto hold reduces artifacts when loud transients occur during silence or when low-level sounds and noise are boosted during long compression release times. Since the RS124 has long attack and release times with lots of makeup gain, transients can sometimes present artifacts. So when engaged, the auto hold will analyze the transient and smooth out the attack. And if the signal drops below a certain level on the release, it will hold it down to eliminate the noise swelling up as the compressor releases. If the light is steady, as it is right now because there's no material going through it, auto holds on, but it's not doing anything. It's normal compression. If the light is flashing, which we'll look at a little bit later, auto hold, it's doing its thing. It automatically works in the correct spots for the source material. The thing is, with auto hold, you think, well, why don't I just leave it on all the time? I want to get rid of the artifacts. It kind of changes the unique tone of this compressor, so only use it as needed or automate it on and off at certain points in the song when you think it's needed. Otherwise, it can really affect the classic sound of the RS124. For the recovery, we've got a 6-position switch, 1 to 6, fast to slow recovery or release times. You'll notice on this, there's no attack, release, or threshold. That's because the attack and release are set within the unit, and the threshold is changing as you change the input control. So basically, the more signal you drive into this, the more compression you get. Think of it as raising the input and lowering the threshold. The output attenuator is minus or plus 24 dB of gain to match the input signal with the output after compression. We can change our meter to be gain reduction, which is its default setting, input meter or output meter right here. And we've got this superfuse button right here, which if I engaged, it sets the compressor's release time to match the attack time, disables your recovery control so you can't set the release yourself, which could result in sort of an overcompressed, really aggressive sound. So this is not part of the original RS124 at Abbey Road, but it is part of the Chandler Limited's RS124 reproduction hardware unit, as is the attack time of this particular Abbey Road unit. And two others as well, serial number 60050A and 61010B. It's got a few other controls, the Chandler Limited version, but it does model this particular unit as well. Down here, we've got unit type between studio and cutting. The studio is based on the original RS124 tubes. That's kind of a faster attack and release time. The cutting, if I move to here for cutter, is 6AL5 tubes with slower attack times. You'll notice this is not quite as aggressive of compression when you go to cutter versus studio. So let's go straight to some audio examples. And I thought, what better way to highlight this classic Abbey Road compressor than to use it on some Beatles material. I've got the multi-tracks of a cover version of Come Together, famously recorded by the Beatles for their Abbey Road album. And I'm going to use it first on the vocal part. So here's the vocal part, bypass, no compression engaged.
He wear no shoes and he got toe jam football, he got monkey finger.
I just picked a preset here, big lead vocal. Let me get the superfuse off. You can see a fast-ish release time, sort of medium release, pushing for a decent amount of compression, output attenuator, trying to match. We're on that studio, which is what you're going to use most of the time. For your normal compression for that RS124 sound, here it is with compression.
He wear no shoes and he got toe jam football, he got monkey finger.
So you're getting a lot of compression here, between 15 and 20 dB of compression. You can really hear the harmonics being added. I'll bypass it on and off.
He wear no shoes and he got toe jam football, he got monkey finger. He shoot Coca-Cola, he said.
It really brings out the enunciation in the words and just kind of fills everything in with this sort of rich, thick sound. Let's play with the controls just a bit. I'm going to change the recovery times as it plays.
He wear no shoes and he got toe jam football, he got monkey finger. He shoot Coca-Cola, he say, I know you, you know me.
And if I engage the superfuse, you'll really hear it crush it.
He wear no shoes and he got toe jam football, he got monkey finger.
You can hear the echo, that's J37 tape echo, almost come out at the same level as the vocal part when you have that superfuse engaged, just really bringing that low-level information up. Now we'll take a look at another really common use of this compressor, and that is on bass. Here's the bass part that we all know well with no compression. And now I'll engage the compressor. Match that output. I'll bypass it on and off as it plays. Listen to how much more controlled those certain transients at the beginning of each note that pop out are when they're off versus on. Here it is off again. Certain notes just pop out more. Now here it is with the compressor engaged. See how it smooths everything out. If I change to the cutter type, you'll hear it's a totally different style of compression. And those transients pop through a little bit more because of that slower attack time. Now we're going to try it on a drums bus, and I'm going to really work to crush the drums. So I'm going to put it on the superfuse setting. Here it is without. And with. You can really hear that compressor pump. Now if I wanted to just mix some in, I could play with the mix knob. Without. With. Just add some of that nice energy, the compression to it. So we'll put it on some guitars next, and I'm going to play with the auto hold here, or try it first with the compressor bypassed. Here's the guitar part. And when I turn this auto hold off at first, you're going to hear when the guitars come in from silence, you really hear that compressor react. Especially listen to the noise right before the guitars come in. Now when I put the auto hold on, you can hear when it's off. Really loud noise when it's on. Kind of gradually holds onto that compressor as it brings that level up. Gets rid of that big pop in sound when it first starts. So there it is, the Abbey Road Studios RS124 compressor from Waves. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already so we can keep you in the loop as to what's coming up next. And I'll see you in the next one.